Well, hello and welcome to the Profit Express. I'm Tim Healy, and I'm inviting you to join me each and every Wednesday so you can be prepared to win the battle for business. That's right. Now listen, I know you're out there. You're closing deals. You're making money. You're turning prospects into profits. So I got to make it worth your while. That's why I have on the kinds of guests that you can listen, learn, and earn from. Today's guest, absolutely no exception. So thanks for sharing some of your time with me today. Thanks for being on board the Profit Express. And as always, a special thanks to our sponsor, Corbett Public Relations, where they've been promoting and protecting businesses and brands for over 30 years. So do yourself a favor. Visit Bill and his team at CorbettPR.com. That's CorbettPR.com. Welcome aboard, everybody. Now, we are certainly focused on winning the battle for business here on the Profit Express. And if you are like many of the listeners, you could very well be a small business owner. You could be a C-level executive, a sales professional. And you could have dedicated your life to building a successful, profitable business. You could have dedicated your life to building a lucrative career. And that's awesome. But we always want to go one step further. Why are we doing this? Why are we sacrificing? Because you know what? On the Profit Express, I want to help you make sure that you get to, in retirement, live the life for yourself and your family that you've dreamed of, that you've sacrificed for. And that's why this year I created the 2022 Financial Fitness Series. And today is part 2, and I'm very, very excited about that. Today, we're going to talk about specifically goal setting in a really unique and fun way, as well as understanding your cash flow. And I'm super excited to have back on, of course, our resident financial expert, Anthony DeAngelo. He's the president. He's the founder of Lionheart Wealth Management. They're an independent wealth management firm and investment advisory firm as a part of Ameriprise Financial. So I'm super excited to have Anthony back for part 2. Anthony, how are you today?
Feeling good today, Tim. Good to be back on.
Awesome.
Excited to talk today about gold, one of my favorite topics. So definitely looking forward to getting rolling.
So the topic for today, goal setting and understanding cash flow. Now, we'll get to the cash flow in a moment. As you and I have discussed in the past, when it comes to somebody's finances, whether you're a professional, whether you're a business owner, it can be intimidating. But goal setting, in the conversations that you and I have had, we're going to destigmatize it. It's not going to be intimidating. And actually, from your perspective as to how you work with your clients, it's where you can start having some fun and start dreaming. So do this, Anthony.
Definitely.
Take us through the approach you take your clients through for goal setting. What does that look like?
One thing about personal finance is that it's very is that the beauty of personal finance is that it's personal. It's
Right.
all about you and your objectives. It's not about somebody else's goals and somebody else's wants for you. It's really up to you what you're working to accomplish when you're at work and when you're putting money away for your future. So, I get excited about talking about goals just like I get excited about going on vacation. You're booking your flights, you're packing your bags, but the big thing that we have to figure out is where are we booking our flight to? So what's our destination? And that's where goal setting comes in. We're setting our destination.
Mm-hmm.
So I heard an analogy pretty recently I don't know if it was not analogy, but just a little fact about a flight from Los Angeles to New York. So once the flight takes off from LA to New York, and you're in the air, if the nose of the plane moves just 7 feet to the right, you wind up in Washington, D.C. and not New York City.
Uh-huh.
I found that pretty interesting because, listen, and that's not the end of the world. Certainly, once you get into D.C., you can get on a plane, on a bus, on a train, you can rent a car, and you could be in New York in a few hours. So it's not a big deal. And that's the whole concept with setting goals, that it's if you fall a little bit off course, there are multiple roads to get you back on track and get you to your destination.
Right.
But what I would say is you just want to know what the destination is. You don't want to get on a plane and all of a sudden, like if you have no destination and no place that you're thinking of, you get on a plane, you wind up in Russia. I think that you'd have that there could be a problem with that.
Right, and that's why we're talking about it here on the Financial Fitness series. So it's a journey with a destination in mind, and I do love the analogy. Being 7 feet off, if the plane tilts the nose 7 feet, end up in your destination in New York, you're going to be in D.C. So there's certainly some great comparisons in financial planning. So it's a journey, there's a destination. What are some of the next steps then that we take people through with goal setting?
I think the best question that anyone can answer for themselves, and really my favorite question to ask, is that if you had all the money that you would ever need right now,
Right.
and again, everything would be all set financially, going forward, what would you be doing right now? What would you be doing today? And that's where the lights turn on in every conversation that I've had, because it's a pretty powerful question.
Wait, so okay, so I want you to repeat that one. That's a good one. So this is a question that you ask in your practice. Ask that one again, Anthony.
So if you had all the money that you would ever need right now, what would you be doing today? So if money was no issue, had everything put away, and you're all set for the future. What does your day look like?
Now I
And
can
that's
so
when you
it,
just sit back, and
I
you
can
just start to
hold,
think, what does it look like?
as you're asking that question, that can be a fun question, and it can also be a little scary of a question. So what are some of the answers that you hear? What have people said over the years when you've asked that question?
There's a ton. I mean, there's a ton. There's so many. I mean, I had one client. We had to revamp everything because it was just so simple. He's like, honestly, Anthony, if I had all the money I would ever need right now, I would be in the park reading a book. And it's like, wait a second. If that's the objective, are you how much saving, how much investing, how much? I mean, investing is going to be important because you need your money to last over the long run. But if you have a lifestyle where your top objective is to relax in the park with a good book, that's not a very cost intensive hobby to have there.
Right,
I
right.
think that we were able to revamp, and we were able to, I think, put him on a track where he could retire years earlier than the norm of 65. So that's a misnomer too. Listen, when I think about it myself, if I put myself in the shoes for that question, because it's a big question, I feel pretty relaxed because I know, first things first is I would want some more free time. I
Right,
think
right.
personally I would continue to work. I love the company that I started here. I would love to see my team continue to develop and my clients reach their objectives. I think that I'm on, but I'm definitely not working full time. I'm part time. I think sleep sounds like a fantastic hobby and not a very expensive one that I would certainly like to pick up. I have young kids, 5 and 2, so sleep is a hot commodity these
Sure.
days. Definitely a different stage of my life. I read one of Daniel Pink's books years ago, and it was talking about like taking naps in the middle of a business day. I don't know how that would work, so I think maybe naps in the mix would be great.
Right.
I feel like I do a good job of hanging out with friends and family. I would be able to keep maintaining that and enjoy being with my kids and with my wife and my family, friends. Um, I have a goal for my kids. If money was no issue, I would want to make sure they had a strong financial foundation.
Right.
That's a big objective of mine. And if you notice, I didn't say college education planning for my kids, which is a lot of, which is a very common objective and goal. That's not my objective and goal. I think I love my college experience, but I'm planning to set my kids off on good financial footing. It could be a down payment on a home. It doesn't have to be traditional college, and who knows what that will look like anyway, 16 years down the road, 12 years down the road.
Right.
So
Right.
that's changing. I have a 10-year wedding anniversary coming up in a few years, maybe taking a vacation, taking a trip. I would love to learn how to play the guitar. That sounds like a great thing to be able to do. Maybe I love going down the shore as a kid, as a teenager, maybe a beach house where we can, spend the summers with our kids as they grow up down the Long Beach Island in New Jersey. So, all these are things that I feel really good talking about them. Because, I know,
Anthony, I can see it in your face as you're just describing, what your goals are and how it's relating and impacting your family. I can just see how it's changing your physiology. You're smiling.
can we
It's
just
it's
win
amazing.
lotto? Can I just win lottery tomorrow? That would just be fantastic. I would be really good at living the lifestyle that I just explained there.
So now here's another thing for the financial fitness series, though. And this to me is really important. So, listen, everybody has heard of and knows, quote unquote, what goal setting is about. But what I really like in what you're sharing so far, Anthony, is the fact that, you had one client who says, Anthony, you know what? If I had all the money I ever needed right now, I'd be in the park enjoying a good book. That's a really great answer. And, it's not the same answer for everybody, obviously. But what I'm getting, and I want to kind of share again, is the value to the exercise is giving yourself the freedom to think and to really, have fun with this question, just like you're having fun with it right now.
It's a great exercise to go through, no question about it. And it's important because you learn a lot about yourself. If you go through this with your spouse as well, you learn a lot about each other because think about the goals that I outlined. I'm kind of looking through them now. 3 of them, 4 of them were financial, and 4 or 5 of them weren't financial.
Right.
So it's not like they're all money goals, but it just helps to put into perspective what's important to you. So relationships, friendship, relaxation, listening to your body, being able to, enjoy the beach, watching your kids grow up and watching them grow up in an environment that's going to be, one that they can really grow in and flourish. So those are the things that you're thinking about, and they make this journey of saving money and putting it away. It makes it all worth it because when you think about money too in personal finance, it's not tangible. It's not like picking up a calculator. Like it's not. You're not buying something tangible. You're buying something that's a dream for the future. So
Right.
sometimes it can be hard to put that money away, without actually knowing exactly what it's going to purchase. So when you dream and you think about, hey, the beach house, that's something that's real. Now that's tangible. I'm working towards that objective now. I feel better about it, because I can feel that beach house one day.
Right.
Feeling retirement, okay, that sounds good. Like I don't know if what that really means. That means I'm older. That means that, like it could that could bring up a lot of anxiety, but you have to make the things that you're doing in retirement. That the reality of how you spend your retirement, that's what makes, being able to put the money away that you need to get there. That's what makes it easy. It makes it easier to do that.
Well, you bring up a good point because everybody understands the concept of retirement, but retirement for a lot of people is I work till I'm too old to work anymore, and then I stop, and hopefully I have money to pay my bills. But man, if you just look at it like that, you've really shortchanged what life can be. And again, having, being financially fit, making sure the finances can meet the lifestyle you actually want, not just, okay, I'm going to stop working one day because I'm old. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a great perspective.
Listen, it definitely is, and it's an important one to have because again, if you don't go through this fitness series and you don't go through these exercises in your life, again, you do wind up on a path where you're just not sure where you don't know where you'll wind up, and you can make things a lot more clear and easier and less stressful for yourself just by getting information. Let's talk a little more about that. So,
Yeah.
When I think about the goals that I outlined, there are different ones. You have to prioritize. There were short, mid, and long-term goals built into the outline that I provided. So long-term goals were certainly working part-time, but also that means that part-time I'm not working, so I have to be able to support that. The financial, foundation for my children as well. That's a 20-year goal. That's another longer-term goal. Midterm was again a potential vacation home and a 10-year anniversary trip. And then the short-term goal, things that you can pick up it would just be a matter of time. Well, the 10-year anniversary goal, I guess, is really more of a short-term goal, not a midterm goal. And then again, like free time, more sleep, you can build that in. If you realize that it's important, you can try to figure out ways to integrate that into your lifestyle, sooner rather than later. But now that I've identified the time frame for each one, so 3 years, 5 years, 20 years, 30 years, now I have to prioritize. Now, I said that I would always work partially, so that should cover a big chunk of my income. Truth be told, that's not how it's going to work. Because currently, right now, as a working professional, I can ensure my ability not to work. So if God forbid something were to happen where the decision to not work wasn't up to me, I can ensure that. And we'll talk about that in one of the later series, parts of the series that we'll
Mm,
have. I think it's going to be
mm,
2 or 3 parts from now. But protecting yourself to make sure that you have the income coming in the savings coming in to be able to again retire. That's a big
right.
part of a plan. So I would say 67 is probably the latest I can insure myself
Hmm.
and protect myself where working part-time, that's a reasonable expectation. So I have to make sure that by 67 I'm financially able to step away and not to work anymore, to be financially independent. Now that has to be priority number one. So now what do I do there? So priority number two, I think for me would be the financial foundation for my kids. I think three would be a vacation type home. And then, four, again, I don't have to take a vacation for the anniversary. You could do like a night away. Like that's something very easy to plug into. It doesn't have to be a big goal. So we'll kind of see how this maps out. So I'm going to stop here. And now I'm going to introduce cash flow. Because once we have our goals and we prioritize them, now we have to see based on the money that we're bringing in and what we spend, what the reality is. What can we really do? So
So,
cash flow and cash flow, and yeah, go for it.
yeah, all right. So business owners understand the vital importance of cash flow. It can, if you don't have the right cash flow as a business, it can cripple you. So when an individual thinks of cash flow, they're like, again, is this, is it intimidating? Is it complex, et cetera? You're going to get to it, obviously. But again, people have to be open and willing to have these conversations. So the first part is the dreaming, the fun part of the goal setting it up like you just mapped out with your goals, which is a great analogy. And now it's time for people then to look to kind of like get into the weeds of cash flow, money in, money
Now it's
out.
reality.
Okay.
Now it's reality. This is where reality comes in. So listen, this can be so cash flow analysis is a very fancy term for taking all of your expenses, getting them on paper, your monthly and annual expenses, and versus what you're actually earning and you're bringing in, each month or each year, depending on how your cash flow works and how your bonus structure works, or as a business owner, depending on how your kind of seasonal flow and cyclical flow will work.
Right.
So that's a process so for us in our practice, there are apps that do it. There's tons of technology things that you can use to go through this process. We send them an Excel file in a PDF document. So however our client wants to fill out that information, they can do that. And then what we're doing is we're just trying to get a feel for where, again, on the expense worksheet, it's everything you can spend money on. That could be a little bit stressful, but it's not a long process. Listen, I have definitely sent out a bottle of wine for this exercise to clients in the past. Sometimes you may need a little bit of a drink to just kind of look and see, hey, where's all my money going?
Right.
But it is important because you'll notice. So the goal isn't necessarily budgeting when you're doing a cash flow, because if you are living below your means, that means you've hit an optimal lifestyle, and we can work with that delta, that free cash flow, and map it towards an objective and a goal that you have. But when you go through this process, you may identify expenses and things that are no longer important to you, that you can cut out and create more free cash flow. Again, if you aren't saving, this is definitely a good exercise to go through to identify what is going on, where what in your lifestyle is really important to you, and what can you scale back in order to reach this more important objective for the future. So we're looking for that delta. That's the difference between all of your income and then what you can and what you're actually spending and what you're using to support your lifestyle or expenses that you have.
All right. Now, Anthony, let me ask
Yeah.
you just real quick. So you've taken, countless people through this exercise. I'm imagining as they go through this exercise, can they often be surprised by, what they're actually spending their money on?
So I'll give you a good example of this one. So when I got into the industry, into wealth management, one of my managers said, "Hey, you're a financial advisor now. Set up your financial plan. Get a feel for where your expenses are and what you're earning, and you have to practice what you preach." So
Right.
I just remember getting a spreadsheet and going through it. And I just thought in my head, I'm like, where the heck? I see what's all my earnings. Right? I was looking at my expenses. I was like, where am I throwing money away right now? This doesn't make any
Right.
sense. It's not these expenses aren't making me my life any better. I need to scale back and I need to just really automate and put money away and so again spend money on the things that will make me happier and that I enjoy and cut the expenses and the things that don't.
Yeah.
So that was good exercise. That
That's
helped me.
power. Yeah, I listen. I think we're all guilty of wasting money. You know, and this is why as you're going through this is mission critical. You got to do it.
Got to do it. So now you have this data, right? Because what we're trying to do is to put this into perspective so that anyone watching this can try to kind of take this data and information and with some software and technology, put this into practice. Any financial planner will have this kind of software to figure out what the real numbers are. But again, like for the first goal, the most important objective, when you look at this objective, you have to figure out, how much money you have saved now, how much is this going to cost for me to be financially independent, and then how much do I have to put away each month or each year to get there. So we can go through that exercise, and let's say that it takes up, 2/3 of your income of your savings. That's one scenario.
Mm-hmm.
So now that money's away, and that money's going to go to make sure you're financially independent. Next objective now is making sure that you're again for me was that my boys are have a good financial footing and a foundation. When I went through my numbers, I saw that it would basically take basically another quarter of my savings. So if we're breaking this into kind of percentages here, let's say let's say half my money would have to go towards my financial independence. A quarter would be going to of my savings would go towards financial foundation for the boys.
Mm-hmm.
And now I have a quarter left over. Okay. Now when I run the math and I run the numbers, I don't know if I'm going to get to that beach house. I'll be honest with you. It would be really nice, but I don't know if that's in the cards. But then I thought a little bit further. And I thought about before, like if we landed in DC, is that the only road to get to the destination? It's not. We can get off that plane from LA, we can get a train or rent a car and get to New York. There are different roads and different pathways that we can take.
Right.
That's an idea. So for me, this beach house, what's so important about it is that, at least while my kids think I'm cool and like spending time with me while they're young, it would be nice to spend these summers down the shore. So it's a certain period of time that this is gonna happen and this will last.
Right.
So what if instead of putting 50% away from my long-term bucket, I carve out some money to go towards this beach house with the understanding that if the markets don't do as well as I expect, and again, even if I save more, maybe I can keep the beach house. But if it doesn't work out, I would sell that beach house in the future to support my financial independence. That is a strategy that could work. So now I can move capital away from my financial independence objective because this is going to be another pocket of that financial independence. It's an asset that I would be owning. And that asset could then come back into the plans. And you just have to let your spouse know, listen, we're going to enjoy this house. We're going to be here for a certain amount of years, but eventually we could need to sell this property to come back into the plan for us for our retirement. And going into that, now there's another road. Now I'll tell you things don't look too good for our 10-year anniversary trip right now. So I think we're looking at a long weekend. But that's okay. We can look at our 12-year anniversary. We can have it down in this beach house that we're putting money away towards. Maybe that could be the one of the tangible actions that will happen in the future. But that's sacrifice. That's life. It's not always going to you can't have every objective. Listen, maybe sometimes you can, but in reality, a lot of times you can't have every objective and goal that you want. And if you plan, you can figure out and prioritize what's really important, what's not, and then is there a road? Because maybe I decide, hey, listen, this anniversary trip is really important. I won't sacrifice it. So now I'm going to carve out some other spendings, or I'm going to get another, I'll work another job or do something to get there. There could be another road to all the objectives, but you just have to define them first. And that's the key for this exercise. In this outline today is to just kind of put into perspective how to go through it, that it's not intimidating. It can be a lot of fun, that knowledge is really the power of it all. It's just getting the information so you can make these decisions. and and then just chart your course and plan forward.
Okay, so it's interesting. Everybody hears retirement planning. You got to plan for your retirement. But I decided to do this financial fitness series, for the listeners. The listeners are the small business owners. They're the C-level executives, the sales professionals. And, we're all thinking about retirement in one way or another. But Anthony, I honestly love how you developed this one. I'm not just saying that. The way you described it has helped me, and I know it's helped the listener. It's like retirement is different now. It's not just something that, okay, I got to have some income so I can pay my bills. You described life. They had the analogy of the destination. Can you get off course? Okay, but we can course correct. Then what I do love is the conversation. So you have your spouse, you have your partner. It's like, okay, these are the things we're having. Maybe we have the beach house. Maybe we have to sell it. So it really is a plan that's based on not just, you said, knowledge, data, but I'll go one step further. It's based on great communication. That's what makes this really interesting and real. I like it.
And self-realization as well. Because because again, no one has to see what's on your sheet. No one has to know exactly what's important to you. This is an exercise for you, for your future, for you to plan out. And again, it's a very personal process. So what it does provide is clarity on what's important, and it can give you some more just perspective. Again, like my client who wanted to spend their time in the park, it was a lot of perspective. And I think that maybe he probably carved off 5 or 10 years, at a high pace, in a high pace atmosphere to be able to slow things down. And I think that's again but he wouldn't have known that if it weren't for going through an exercise like this.
I love his answer, by the way. Reading a book in the park, right?
That was a good one. That was one of my most memorable ones. I mean, I have this conversation all the time, and that was one of my more memorable ones because it was just so simple. I had another client who just wanted to, up baseball and football games, and that was like another one that it was just we were able to make it, the more realistic it is and the more that you believe that you would enjoy it, and that is true to you and yourself,
Right.
that's when you really can work out the numbers and the logistics to make it reality, either sooner than later, or just push yourself to at least be on track and on target to get there, at a certain point in time.
Wow. Yeah, it's like having a different awareness of what retirement can be, which is what I like about this conversation today. So it's goal setting in a fun way, goal setting, dream setting, having some fun with it, right? Because we only get one shot at this thing called life, right? So we might as well go for it. And then the very important conversation, cash flow analysis is not just for businesses. It's for households. It's for individuals and couples.
Yeah, you have to know your numbers, and that's a big part of this of the whole planning process as well. You have to know what you can put to work, and again, better to be aware of it than not to be aware of it. That's
Right.
another situation. So again, all financial planning it's awareness and information that you can now utilize
Right.
to make sure that all the things that you want to do. Again, like everyone works really hard for their money. If
Right.
you're wasting it
Exactly.
on things that aren't like you work so hard for your money. Like my dad would always say that to me, Anthony, you work too hard for your money, don't throw it away.
Right.
And it was because that's it. Like time, like money reflects effort, it reflects time, it reflects energy.
Right.
That's
Right.
you can't take that. You can't take that for granted.
No.
That's the big thing. Don't sell yourself short on that effort and time that you put in, because that's it's all encapsulated in that retirement plan, in that 401k account. That's not just a number. That's effort. That's sacrifice. There's a lot that 401k plan or your savings accounts represent. Your home equity. That was work. That was effort. So and time. So that's a very important part to me as a financial planner, is to never take that for granted, and how much effort and sacrifice goes into somebody's savings.
Yeah. No, that's a great point too, because it's their life. It's their business. It's their career. It's so much of how they identify and the sacrifices they make. Listen, another great conversation, part 2 in the Financial Fitness Series, the 2022 Financial Fitness Series. Thanks to our resident financial expert, Anthony DeAngelo, Lionheart Wealth Management. Great job, my friend. Love it. Well done. I can't wait for the next one. Do we have a teaser? Do we have a teaser? Do we know what the topic is going to be?
We're going to start talking about investments, different types of investments and systems, because that's really cash flow. If I can break down the whole process to 3 concepts, it's goal setting, identifying cash flow, and creating systems. So next week we get to start next week or the next episode we get to start talking about the actual systems that we put in place, and then start to identify the landscape of the investment universe, which is pretty wide.
I'm looking forward to it already, my friend. All right, Anthony, thank you so much for being on board today.
All right, Tim, take care.
And this is the Profit Express. And remember to tune in and be on the alert for great episodes like the one I just had with Anthony DeAngelo, president and founder of Lionheart Wealth Management, as a part of our 2022 Financial Fitness Series. They download on Wednesdays. You can follow me in the show on Instagram at The Profit Express. Of course, on YouTube, follow the Profit Express page. Give us a like. Give us a follow. And we're out there each and every day looking to win the battle for business. Let's make sure that we do what we need to do today so we're living the life in retirement that we dream of. So until next time, this is the Profit Express.